guys, what's going on? Welcome to the show. This is Sports with Strawberry Ice. I'm your host, Jeff Trunapole, the Iceman. And as always, I'll bring you sports from a West Side point of view right here in the great city of Cincinnati, Ohio, home of the Cincinnati Reds are about to get things started in the second half. I cannot wait. It's going to be so much fun to watch. Now, do me a favor, if you found the show, hit that like and subscribe button. Smash that thumbs up. I'm up to 1,242 subscribers. That is awesome. I appreciate every single one of you guys. Now, if you're watching it on Twitter or Facebook or anything like that, do me a favor. Go to the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell for the notifications, and every time I go live, you'll be notified. Also, we're doing super chats in the YouTube channel, so if you want to support what I'm doing, give me a super chat. I would greatly appreciate it. Now, before we get into today's guest, we had some Bearcat news that just broke right before I went on the air, and it was announced on Mo Egger's show that the Bearcats, Wes Miller, the coach, has a new commitment from Hamilton's 7-foot center. And I'm going to mess his name up. I'm just going to go with Sage because I don't think I can say his last name. He just committed to the Bearcats for the 2022 class. He's a three-star recruit. So I think I'm excited about the Bearcats. Again, he's building the class up for next season. That is good. I'm excited. We'll see what happens. I think the basketball team is going to be better than we think. And the football team is going to be legit. It's going to be a lot of fun up there in Clifton, and we get to go to the games this year. How fun is that going to be? Now, let's get to today's guest. He has had a whirlwind trip. He just got back from the All-Star game. He's from Cincinnati.com and the Cincinnati Enquirer. He's none other than Bobby Nightengale. Bobby, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
No problem. No problem at all. So, how much fun did you just have this past weekend covering Nick Castellanos and Jesse Winker in their first All-Star games ever?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, you kind of get to see them. It was both their first times at the All-Star game, so it's a new experience for both of them. You could tell both they appreciate it in their different ways. You could tell like Nick Castellanos really wanted to soak it in. He really enjoyed the home run derby with his son, his 7-year-old son Liam. And I think Jesse Winker was just one of those, like, he's chatty all the time. Got to bring down his young daughter to the field and hang out with her. So they both got to appreciate it in different ways, and I thought it was a fun week. And it's a nice change of pace because you're only covering two guys versus the whole team.
Right, exactly. You just kind of concentrate on them, and I loved. I just popped those pictures up, but I loved on the red carpet that everybody tries to dress up to the nines and like they're going to a movie preview and stuff like that. Not the Reds guys. He's wearing Castellanos wearing his shirt from his son, his birthday present that his son made him for his 29th birthday, and then Jesse Winker, class act, representing Joe Morgan. He got the permission from the Morgan family to wear the jersey, and that's just cool, man. They were repping Cincinnati. I mean, that to me makes me like them even more. They're all in on Cincinnati. They love their teammates. They love this city. They love what's going on.
Yeah, exactly as you put it. I mean, I think I talked to Jesse Winker about it, and he was just saying that right before he left for Milwaukee on that road trip, and then he was going to go straight to Denver afterwards, he was looking in his closet, he saw the Joe Morgan jersey, and he's like, you know what, that'd be pretty cool if I wore that, found a way to honor him. And so, like you said, he contacted the Morgan family, got permission to wear it, and I thought it was a great tribute for a guy that, obviously it's, you want to celebrate yourself. He's had an amazing season to this point, but for him to be like, you know what, on my special day, I want to draw attention to Joe Morgan.
Right.
I thought it was a cool tribute.
Yeah, exactly. That and not everybody would do that. I mean, that's just, usually a lot of these guys are me. It's about me. And I don't think that Castellanos or Winker are like that. And it shows because I know Red's Twitter has kind of gone off because there wasn't that many or no posters of Nick Castellanos and Jesse Winker pretty much anywhere from what I've heard. They didn't get the pub, that that all the guys from San Diego did, or San Diego. They got the gold chain. I don't know what they even call it, but they had that going on. Everybody's wearing that, and everybody's talking about them. And Nobody's talking about the Reds, but I think the second half, I think people are going to talk about the Reds. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, if they get off to a hot start, I mean, 3 big ones against Milwaukee this weekend, and then you have the New York Mets. They play them 6 times over the next 2 weeks, and they're in first place. So, yeah, I mean, these next few weeks are – plus the trade deadline, you're going to have a lot of Reds news, and if they play well, I mean, they're going to be the talk of baseball, I think.
Exactly. Now, one thing I thought was interesting, you tweeted out this earlier. Well, actually, you retweeted it, but it's how Nick Castellanos loves being the villain for the St. Louis Cardinals, but he kind of wants this image of him standing over the Cardinals pitcher to go away. And if you guys go to Bobby's timeline, you can find the YouTube video where he's talking about it. And it's mostly he I guess he feels bad about it, but he just, he's like, I wasn't trying to show up anybody. I was just in the moment, and he just happened to be there.
Yeah, I think it's partly that, and it's like, he got suspended for it. And
right.
I know, a lot of people have talked about support for him. A lot of players support, what he's about, and they thought it was silly that he got suspended. But I think it's one of those, like, he doesn't want to have that brought up over and over. He doesn't want to be remembered in St. Louis as the guy who stood over Jake Woodford. I mean, he was excited he scored, obviously. He's excited about the emotion. But if you remember right after that, he walked straight to the dugout. It wasn't around to keep on taunting the Cardinals or keep on shouting. And he, as he mentioned in the media day interview this week, he said, like, if Jake Woodford wanted to get dinner afterwards, I would have been
right. So, right. And that's the part that always drove me nuts about that whole thing. And not that we have to go back to that, but like you said, he got up and he walked away. He's heading to the dugout, and Yadier Molina is the one that grabbed him. Yadier Molina is the one that shoved the umpire out of the way, and nothing happened to him. That's still, we start talking about that, it still bugs me, because I'm like, he got suspended and he just said bleep yeah and walked away from him, and everybody else went freaking nuts.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was probably the most calm person in that whole situation after he scored and did the shout and flex. But afterwards, I mean, I thought it was okay if he got ejected and no suspension. Like I got ejected, but to me, more games on top of it and a fine was
That's the same thing that happened to Garrett too. I mean, and now Garrett's like he's afraid to do anything, which, I mean, Garrett can do the stuff. There's been all kinds of crazy relief pitchers over the years. I mean, we had 3 of them in the 90s, the Nasty Boys. They're all nuts, But if he can do stuff, and the last time he did it, I don't really think it was even toward the Cubs. He was just like, I'm back. He finally threw a good slider, and then the shortstop for the Cubs. Why can't I?
Javier Baez.
Yes, thank you, Javier Baez. He's the one that jumped over the wall, and you're talking and like, but Garrett's the one that gets suspended. I'm like, it's just.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I mean, it's one of those, like, the guy who instigated it didn't get any punishment.
Right.
Who Sterling did.
Yes, he literally jumped over the dugout wall to walk toward Garrett. I'm like, anyway. All right, let's get into this. The chat is blowing up here, and then we'll get to some more stuff here. Zach, he's got this addressed to me, but we both can answer it. And I think it's a good question for you. He said, good afternoon, Ice. Who do you think will be the most crucial on the Reds to substituting their success in the second half? Love your show from Indy. I guess who's the most important person on the Reds?
I think if you're talking about taking him to the next level, I think it's Eugenio Suarez. If he ever gets going, I mean, he's had some moments. I think he has 18 homers, so it's not like he's been as bad as his batting average suggests. Like he's not off to a start that he expects, but he hasn't been, I don't think, like the worst hitter in baseball. But if he can finally get into a hot streak, if he can turn it around, I mean, think about what that lineup looks like.
Oh, yeah.
Winker, Castellanos, Joey Votto's had a really good last month. And Suarez turns it around. I mean, that does a huge thing for your lineup. So to me, he's the key to going to the next level. If
exactly
be able to go on a huge run.
Yeah, that'll bring me to the article that you tweeted out today. Again, this is on Cincinnati.com. You guys can check it out. But it's about Nick Castellanos and says that the Reds haven't been at their best yet. I think Gino Suarez is going to start turning it on. India is still growing and finding his potential in the major leagues, and that's kind of reiterating what you're just saying about Gino.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's just such a key to that offense. I mean, he's a guy who's going to play every day. You saw it when he homered off Josh Hader right for the All-Star break. I mean, he can win you games if he's on. It's just a matter of him just figuring out his swing. I mean, it's just weird that it's gone on this long and he hasn't really had like a 3-week stretch where he's dominated. I mean, he's been a streaky hitter in the past, but
not like this.
Not a good streak yet.
Yeah, what scares me about him, and I've talked about this, he's hit like this last year. So that's where I'm more of, I don't know if it's a slump or his bat is slower, because he's missing pitches that he didn't miss in the past. I mean, he's swinging over the top of him. He's behind him, so I love Nick Castellanos and how he believes in Gino. And yes, you are definitely true. If Gino can come back and be the Gino of 2 years ago, this lineup is going to be unbelievable. I'm hesitant to believe that just over, it's what have you done for me lately? And it's not just the entire season this year, but it was the shortened season last year too. So that's where I'm kind of like, I don't know. I don't know if he's going to make it back all the way or not, but that home run on Hader was huge. So if he can do enough of those moments for us in the second half, then it's definitely going to be a big difference.
Yeah, and you had that shoulder injury right before the 2020 season, and you always wonder how much that contributed to things. I do kind of last year. I kind of throw it away a little bit. I mean, like you look at Nick Castellanos, he wasn't very good last year offensively, and right now he's one of the best hitters in baseball. So I think the 60 game schedule messed with everyone. And to me, the good sign is Suarez still has the power. I mean, he still has 18 homers, which is I think top 5 or top 10 in the National League.
Yes.
It's just a matter of hitting for average again, which, like you said, maybe he's missing pitches that he didn't miss in the past, and that's the big problem that he has to fix. But if he can turn it on for a 2-month stretch, that's huge for the Reds offense.
Exactly. Now we got a couple comments here. Now, Crown Apple Kid, this guy, he's one of my loyal viewers. I love this guy because he's always commenting on my show. He wants to know about Hunter Green, because he's been wanting Hunter Green up here since opening day. and I have told him this, and multiple people on my show have told him this, that he's not ready yet. Now, this is a different question, though. He goes, will Hunter Green be in Cincinnati this year? I think by September he could be. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's up to how well he pitches in AAA. He's been hit around a little bit in his last few starts. He dominated AA, so he definitely deserved a promotion to AAA. But I think it slowed down a little bit. And it's just one of those things. I mean, the Reds don't want a guy coming to the major leagues and he gets hit around and he loses his confidence.
Exactly.
That's bad news for them in the long term. So I think they're trying to get it to a situation where he feels comfortable, and he's working a lot on his off-speed pitches. His fastball's there. I think his fastball would be amazing in the bullpen, throwing 105. But it's one of those, if you don't have anything else with that fastball to pair with it, major league hitters are still going to hit it. So it's one of those, he's got to prove himself to be one of the best 13 or 14 pitchers that they have. And I definitely think he's a huge part of the rotation next year. It's just a matter of, can he turn it up for coming up next month or in September, as you said.
Right, exactly. And I like to compare it to this is the reason I always give for them not to bring I got 2 examples. One is Homer Bailey. To my opinion, they brought Homer Bailey up too early, and it took him a good, I think, 4 years to actually turn into the pitcher, or somewhat of the pitcher we all thought he would. He was never the lights out all-star number 1 guy that we thought. I mean, granted he had 2 no-hitters, but the longevity wasn't there. And granted, he got hurt, so that's a factor into it too. And the other one I use is Chapman. He was a starter throughout his whole career until the Reds needed a closer, and in 2011 or 12, whenever he got brought up, I don't remember what year it was, they put him in the bullpen, and he never became the starter that the Reds in Major League Baseball thought he would be.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those, if guys are healthy, in 2 months, that probably lessens the chance that he's in Cincinnati this year. If TJ Antone, Lucas Sims, and Michael Lorenzen are starting in the back of the bullpen, and then you're getting contributions from Heath Hembree and Brad Brock and some other guys, there's not that big of a pressing need. Maybe they make a move at the trade deadline and get, a top end, maybe a closer setup guy type guy. And then, that lessens the need for Hunter Green. But if things are still the same the way they are right now, there's still a lot of guys injured. They haven't made a trade. Then I think there's a better chance that you see Hunter Green at the end of the season.
Right. Now, talking about the bullpen, you tweeted this out that Art Warner is on the injured list, but Sonny Gray is scheduled to start Sunday versus Milwaukee. So again, the bullpen, we add Santillan, then we lose another one. Now you brought up TJ Anton and Lucas Sims. Is there any news on them? I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard if they're close to rehabbing or anything. I keep talking about them coming back, but I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, they're still a little further away. I mean, you hope they'd be back probably in the next 2 weeks or so. I think Lucas Sims is a little bit more closer than TJ Antone. They had to shut him down a little bit. And it's one of those like Antony. He came back from the injured list and then got re-hurt within a week. And it's one of those, you can't have that happen in the last 2 months of the season. They're going to go past how many innings they threw last year. So it's important for them to make sure those guys are healthy because they're going to be big contributors, not just for the next 2 months, but for years to come. But the one bright spot is Michael Lorenzen. He should be back on Friday.
Yes. Yeah, and the thing is, if you get – well, they are getting Michael Lorenzen back. And when you get Sims back and TJ Anton back, and if Garrett is pitching like the old Garrett, you go from a very average bullpen to a very good bullpen to where you might make a trade. You might not. Depends if they're all healthy. You know, that could be – to me, that is going into the second half, that's the key thing right there. That the way that bullpen goes, if those four guys can come back and they're healthy and they're pitching lights out, we can win this whole thing. You know, and I mean, I'm not talking just the division. We could win the freaking World Series because when you go into the playoffs, you need a shutdown bullpen. And last year, we had the shutdown bullpen. We had the starting pitching. We didn't have the offense. This year, we got the offense, and the starting pitching isn't as good as last year, but it's pretty good. I mean, Wade Miley has been a godsend to this team. I mean, first 2 months of the year, where would this team be at without Wade Miley and Tyler Mahle? Those two, I think, should be considered for MVPs of the team.
Yeah, Wade Miley. I mean, it's one of those things where I think fans soured on him just because he was hurt last year.
That was me.
He didn't pitch well his first outing, but it's one of those. I mean, he had the track record. Milwaukee with Derek Johnson, he was really, really good. With Houston Astros, I mean, he was right there with Verlander and Garrett Cole for 5 of the first 6 months of the season. Then he struggled in September. So it's one of those. He's always had that talent in there. It's just a matter of whether he's healthy. And he finally got healthy this year, and you see what he's doing for the Reds. Tyler Mahle, they always felt confident that he was going to emerge as kind of the next, kind of unlike that Trevor Bauer path. Trevor Bauer was a 3-starter going into the 2020 season, ended up as Cy Young.
Right.
Felt like Tyler Mahle, just give him some time. He'll be a guy that'll jump up to one of their top starters. Obviously, if Sonny Gray and Luis Castillo kind of perform to where everyone expects them to, I mean, that's a solid rotation. I still think it's a worse team than last year. I mean, if last year's team, that would have been a pretty dangerous team. But this team, the division's a little bit weaker. And this team, I mean, if they keep having momentum, if they keep beating the Brewers, anything's at play right now.
Yeah, I mean, leading into the series, I mean, best case scenario, they sweep them. We're 1 game out of first place. That's pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they're looking at it that way too, is, they were really excited. They got 3 out of 4, and it's almost like, all right, now time to finish the job after the break.
Well, I think the thing, not that, you always want more as a fan, but it should have been a sweep. If our bullpen was any good, first game, we should have swept them. But, it is what it is. I'm happy where they're at. They're having a great first half. We need to roll into a great second half here. Let's get some more questions in the chat here. Let's see here. Now, that people ask me about this with Gino getting hit. When Gino got hit by the pitch, it was the very first pitch thrown at him after hitting a home run. People on the chat here says, do you think there's going to be any retaliation for that? I kind of hope not, because like we've said, we've already had guys suspended. It's a pennant race. We really can't lose anybody to suspension, so I'd rather just beat them on the field. What's your thoughts on the Reds and the Boozers going into this rivalry and the intensity of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think both teams know what's at stake. I mean, if the Brewers say they sweep in Cincinnati, they're in a great spot to win the division. They'll be at least 6 games up on everybody, or 7 games up on the rest of the division with 2 months to go. They'll be in a great spot. If the Reds, like you said, sweep the Brewers, they're within 1 game. So both teams realize what's at stake. And I don't think that Josh Hader throwing at Suarez was on purpose. I know it's kind of like the situation, like, he homered off him the night before. But I don't think that was – the game was too important for the Brewers to kind of there. And they still had 6 games left against the Reds the rest of the season. I mean, you could wait till late August at the last time they play the Reds if you want payback at some point. I I mean, Josh Hader's going to face Eugenio Suarez a lot more times. So I don't even though it looked bad, it was that first pitch after he gave up a home run to him.
Right.
I think it was on purpose. I just think he just tried to go inside on him.
Yeah, exactly. But again, that was if the Reds make the playoff, like actually, I'm speaking into existence. When the Reds make the playoffs this year, that home run by Gino, it could be one of the biggest ones of the year. I mean, that was an absolute shot. Now, Tim Beadle here, and you did an article about the draft here. So he wants to know, how excited are you about the Reds draft? I thought they had a great draft with a few possible steals. Abbott, Torres. Your thoughts? And I'll pop up the thing you tweeted out here about it.
Yeah, they had 3 of the top 35 picks. So, I mean, I think they made the most of it. Their first-round picks, UCLA shortstop Matt McLean, was viewed as like a top 10 pick. It was just one of those where he slid a little bit. And the Reds didn't even think he'd be available for him at 17, and he ended up being there at pick number 17, and they got him. So, I mean, that's a great college shortstop to add to the organization. Kind of gives you a backup plan if, Jose Barrero used to be Jose Garcia. He's viewed as shortstop as the future, but kind of gives you another guy right there to push for. Like Jonathan India, Nick Senzel. Those guys are college infielders that played at a high level, kind of like Matt McLean. And I think there's some comparisons there about how they all play tough and play with an edge. So that's a good thing to add to the organization. And as the person who asked the question, Abbott and Torres, both ACC players. I talked to Danny Graves recently, and he loves both of those players. He thinks Abbott is unbelievable, throws low 90s, but nobody can hit his fastball. So that's something to be excited about, adding a really good pitcher to the organization with how pitching development they've had. And Torres is viewed as the best defensive shortstop in the draft. So another good shortstop, that backup option in case Jose Barrero, something happens there.
Right, exactly. And Jose Barrero actually homered in the futures game. So that was a good sign. Me personally, I think there's a shot if he proves he can hit in AAA that he might get brought up again at the end of the year like he did last year. But if that happens, well, let's just go with what we have right now. With whenever Moose comes back, hopefully he'll come back soon. Do you think they're going to move Gino back to shortstop, or how are they going to do this? Because Farmer's played a very good defensive shortstop. Gino hasn't. He's played a much better third base. And if Gino is still struggling by that time, do you see them, benching him for a couple of days, or how do you see that playing out?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably one of those we'll figure it out when it happens type deals. I mean, if Eugenio Suarez is still struggling to hit, I don't think there's any guarantee that he's still in the lineup every day when Moustakas gets back. But say he is on a hot streak and you have to play him, then maybe he goes to shortstop and you lose the defense with Farmer there. But I think it's at least probably a month away before you're looking at Moustakas coming back. It's just one of those. He was really close to coming back in June. Then he re-aggravated his heel injury on a rehab assignment. And last time I saw him was in Kansas City, and he had a boot on. He was still walking around in a boot. And so you still have to build up from there where you're running again and then start another rehab assignment. So it'll take some time for him to get back to the point where he's ready to play in major league games. So that buys some of the Reds some time. I mean, if Kyle Farmer starts hitting and he continues to play the defense the way he has, it's hard to move him out because him playing good defense has been kind of an underrated part of their 3 wins in Milwaukee.
It wasn't just him. I mean, they were slapping some leather around there. I mean, the one that got me so excited was the throw Winker to Freeman that gunned out. I can't remember who was the runner for the Brewers. Remember who they threw out? I can't remember. Anyway,
throw by Freeman too. I mean, just foul territory and making that line throw down the line.
Right. That was the thing about that series is everything worked for the Reds. The defense was there, the offense was there, starting pitching was there, the bullpen was there, and that shows you how good this team can be. And it's also kind of frustrates me is why don't they do that all the time? Which of course they're not going to do it all the time, but there's been lots of games where they just gave games away this year. And it mostly is the bullpen. And I'm hoping that doesn't come back to haunt us. But I said this on my show. You don't get to decide when you win sometimes. Sometimes it just happens. Like last year, they decided they wanted to win. Well, they struggled the entire time. This year, the front office, in my opinion, gave up, didn't want to do anything or spend any money, which, they didn't even have to spend that much money. But anyway, but it's turned out that they're a very competitive, very good ball club this year. And that brings you to the trade deadline. With what the front office did not do in this offseason, do you think they will be all in? Has Nick Cross said anything about the trade deadline or possibilities, or are they all in on this team? Are they kind of in, or what's the gauge on that?
He said they're absolutely looking to be buyers. I mean, that's probably as close as you can get without guaranteeing. You can't guarantee you're going to make a trade.
Right.
So I get that there's, some people have kind of picked that apart and saying, like, why doesn't he just say full out, we're full-on buyers, but it takes two to tango. But the question is where? I mean, shortstop, I think Trevor Story is by far the biggest impact bat. And there's not many other shortstops out there, but the problem is he's one of the higher paid shortstops out there. If they didn't have money to spend in the offseason on a shortstop, why do they have one now? Or how do they get the money now? So that's the question, is how much money they do have to spend at the deadline. The bullpen's obviously an area where they can add, and maybe a bench bat. I mean, if you're not confident, like you're scared Moustakas is going to take a while, you're scared Senzel might take a few more weeks, then maybe you look at adding an extra infield or two, just in case there's another injury or to back up India or something like that. So I think there's a lot of areas where they can add. It's just a matter of how much money do they have after apparently they didn't have much this offseason.
Yeah, now that pretty much sounds like the trade they made last year, or the two trades they made last year. They picked up a reliever, and they let him go in the offseason. All they had to do is pick up his option anyway, and they picked up an extra outfielder. So, I mean, that's kind of probably what they're going to do this year. I would be surprised, like you said, if they traded for a shortstop, because, like you said, they couldn't afford one in the offseason. Why do they do it now? So, we'll see what happens. So I have a question. The Reds, I think right now, they are 4 games out of first place, and I think 4.5 out of the wild card. Is that right?
3.5.
3.5 out of the wild card. And people asked me on my show here that what my opinion was, if I think they had a better shot of winning the wild card or the division. And I said the division because you got the Padres and you got the Dodgers and the Giants are, I think the wild card is going to come out of the West. But heading to the All-Star break, we're on 3.5 games out. What is your thoughts on the best case scenario for the Reds to get in the playoffs? Do you think it's better? They have a better shot at the division or the wild card?
Yeah, I definitely think it's the division, because it's almost turning into like a 2-team race with the Reds and the Brewers. Like the Cubs they have that 11-game losing streak. They're probably going to be sellers at the deadline. So you're going to see some big names moved out of there, most likely. The Cardinals, I don't know if they'll be sellers, but they're just a team that hasn't got out of a rut since the Reds swept them last month. It just seems like they've been stuck where they've been in the standings, still below 500. And like you mentioned with the NL West, I mean, those 3 teams, those are all playoff teams, the Dodgers, right, Padres, and the Giants. If the Reds and the Brewers consider what they've both done, I mean, the Reds won 9 of their last 11 games to get to this point. And then the Brewers had that 10-game winning streak. So it's like if they have to stay hot this entire next 2 months to kind of stay at this pace where the NL West has been at all season. So I think the NL West, they have a better chance at playing at that high level. The Reds, the Brewers are probably going to have their highs and lows over the next 2 months. But it's turned into almost to a 2-team race, so that gives them both a better chance at winning the division than winning the wild card.
Right, exactly. And to me, I've said this too on my show. The reason I think the reason that the Reds have been such, I mean, I don't want to say a streaky team, but they've won on 7-game streak, a 6-game streak, and but the losing streaks haven't been that long, except for the 7-game one they had, out in LA. My personal opinion is the reason that they're having this, I don't want to say inconsistent, because they've had a very consistent, season, but just where they don't win as many games as we think they should is, I think a lot of that has to do with the bullpen. Do you think if they had a better bullpen that would help them get more consistency here and not be so streaky all the time?
I think that's definitely a part of it. I mean, I think their bullpen ERA is like 27th best in baseball, which obviously is not good. I always think back to that series against the Diamondbacks. It was at home in April, I believe. They got swept at home by the Diamondbacks, the worst team in the National League. And the bullpen gave up, I think, 15 or 16 runs in games. I mean, it was one of those, they should have won all 3. They ended up losing all 3.
Yep.
So it's one of those, the bullpen's pitched better over the last month, definitely. I think it's the 5th best ERA since the middle of June. But it's one of those where you kind of have to be at that level full time if you're going to, where you need to be a playoff team. You can't afford to lose games when you have leads. Kind of like the Kansas City Royals, that game they lost, I think 5-run lead in the 8th, a 3-run lead in the 9th, and I ended up losing that game on a walkout Salvador Perez.
Yes.
It's one of those, and also defense. I mean, they're not going to be a great defensive team. I don't think there's a way to improve that, just the way they're built right now. But that's something they're going to have to live with. Is there might be games where they're going to lose because of their defense.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, and that's the thing too is where I go back to. I don't know if I want Gino at shortstop because they're not a great defensive team, but they're to me with Farmer at shortstop, they get better. I don't know. India, I think he's got a very good shot at being Rookie of the Year. I mean, for not playing second base that much, he's looked like he's been there his entire life.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, there's Trevor Rogers in Miami. He's probably the Rookie of the Year front runner. He's like a 2 ERA and 17 starts. I mean, he's been unbelievable. So that's the guy who he has to catch. But I would have been shocked if you would have told me before the season India's doing what he's doing. I mean, he's top 10 in Major League Baseball and on base percentage. What he's doing at the top of the lineup, how well he's playing at second base. He's been unbelievable. I mean, what he's been able to do as an everyday second baseman, playing close to an all-star level. I mean, and he wasn't really considered for the all-star team, but he's near that level over the past month. And if he keeps gaining confidence, I mean, look out. I mean, he's got a really bright future. Exactly.
And I got to give David Bell credit for this. I think moving him to the leadoff spot was huge. I mean, I got some stats here, just the first half stats of the Reds. But bases on ball, Jonathan India is leading him. He's leading him in steals, which is only 7. But he's also got a very high on-base percentage, and that's a key thing to have for a leadoff hitter is you got to get on base. And he's directly in front of Nick Castellanos and Jesse Winker. So, I mean, I really think once David Bell moved India to the leadoff spot, that really helped the offense even more because 90% of the time, well, I'll say 90%, 85% of the time, somebody's on base in front of Winker and Castellanos now instead of those two leading off.
Yeah, and I think that's been the big reason why the Reds have such a dangerous offense right now is, you have a guy on with Winker or Castellanos. I mean, they're hard enough to pitch as it is, even without a runner on base. But it allows them to do damage. And those guys have been really good with runners in scoring position, really good late in games. So, yeah, I think just having a guy, and the Reds haven't had that in recent years, a guy who can hit leadoff and get on base at around 40% of the time. You almost needed someone like everyone kind of hoping like Nick Senzel could have fit that role.
Right.
Shogo Akiyama did at the end of last season when he had his best months in the major league. They've always been looking for that. They've always had the power hitters behind them. But finally having a consistent leadoff hitter has been a huge difference.
I mean, I can't remember. I mean, I go back, I'm 46 years old, so I go back a little ways. I mean, I remember, I think our two most consistent leadoff hitters that I can remember that did it for a somewhat long period of time is Chris Sabo, and then Bip Roberts. We had him for a year. I mean, Barry Larkin was probably our best leadoff hitter, but he's also our best third hitter and fourth hitter as well, too. I don't remember a guy in the recent future or past being able to do what India's doing. And the biggest thing is getting on base. And he steals, but doesn't steal that much. I mean, nobody steals in baseball anymore, which is another whole story we can get into. But the biggest thing right now for a leadoff hitter is to get on base. And not only is he getting on base, he's also getting big knocks. I mean, that home run he hit in San Diego, which again, the bullpen blew the lead, but still it was him and Stevenson, the two rookies, leading the way in that game. He just got big hit after big hit, and he just plays like he's been here his whole life. He doesn't play like a rookie at all.
Yeah, and what's funny is like spring training 2020, so more than a year ago, he really wasn't on the radar at all. I mean, you saw him in spring training, and you're like, he's got a ways to go. He's not that close. And then you heard at the alternate site, there's no reporters in, no fans or anything. You always heard people say India's really making strides. It looks really good, but you never knew how good because you didn't see it.
You didn't see it, right?
How far away in spring training. And then this year, it's been unbelievable just what he's been able to do.
So I wonder if the not playing every day and just being able to concentrate on work on stuff every day. I wonder if that obviously it helped India, but that's just kind of a different way to improve, because most time to get better at any sport is to play that sport, every single day and learn, especially baseball, to learn the grind, learn the pitchers, learn how to get yourself out of slumps. And that's another big thing. I want to bring this up too, that India did, that I think is a key to his season this year, is he changed his starting mechanism for his batting. He went from a big high leg kick to a toe tap. And that's not easy for major leaguers that have been in the league a while to do, let alone a rookie doing it, and he did it flawlessly.
Yeah, and it's just one of those, like Tyler Stevenson and Tyler Naquin do the same thing with their toe tap. And they encouraged him, they helped him along. They're all in the same batting practice group. But it's one of those, he had a hot week, and then the pitchers adjusted to him, and then he had to find a way to adjust back. And right now, that's the way it is. I mean, I'm sure pitchers will find another way to attack him. I don't expect him to be on base 45% of the time for the rest of the season. So I think there'll be some lulls, but it's one of those. He definitely looks like he's more comfortable. He's a lot more confident. He's hitting the ball a lot harder. So he just looks like a guy that when he's playing with confidence, I mean, he's a dangerous player.
Exactly. And just looking at you right now, you look like you're about to get a half a tan there with the sunlight coming in.
I
know. As we get to Nick Castellanos and his hitting zone, which his hitting zone is ridiculous. I mean, he's got basically one cold zone, and that is right, at the top inside. That's it. Everything else is hot or lukewarm, basically. I mean, this is ridiculous. I don't know. How do you get this guy out? Which, I mean, I don't want him to, but I mean, how do you think Nick Castellanos went from an okay player? I mean, I never heard of Nick Castellanos in Detroit. I heard of him when he got traded to the Cubs, and he got hot for them. And I'll be honest, when the Reds signed him, I was like, I guess that's cool. Dude, I love Nick Castellanos. I mean, I got his jersey. I'm tweeting about him all the time. I love Nick Castellanos. He is my favorite player on this team right now, and it's going to kill me if they don't keep him. But how do you think he's gotten to this point from I guess an average Major League Baseball player to a guy who's considered to be in the NL MVP race now?
Well, I think he was always above average. I mean, he's always been a hitter. I mean, I used to work in Detroit.
Yeah, average is a bad term. Yeah, you're right. A little above it. It's great now.
When he came up, it was just he never had a defensive position. He struggled at third base. He went to the outfield and struggled there initially. So it's one of those. He's always been a hitter, but he's never had a position. And I also think just him being older, being on teams that are winning, it was one of those, like, he got traded to the Cubs and he was on fire. He's the Cubs when he was there for the final 2 months of the 2019 season. And now you see it with the Reds. I mean, when the Reds have a good team, when they're winning, he's into it. And I think the biggest change for him is he used to be known for a guy that chased sliders a lot or chased off-speed pitches off the plate. So it'd be one of those, kind of like Javier Baez, almost like just make it look like a strike and he'll swing at it, even if it goes away from the plate. And he's cut down on that a lot. And so he's drawing a lot more walks. And it's one of those, if he's not going to chase pitches, then you have to throw him pitches in the strike zone. And that's where you see your heat map is. There's not really a good place in the strike zone to throw it.
Yeah, I mean, if this is your heat map, I mean, dude, they're not getting you out. I mean, that is you can't get much better than that. That's just ridiculous. And it's awesome is this is what I wish more major leaguers would do. I mean, look at a spray chart. He sprays the ball all over the place, so you really can't shift on him. And I don't understand why more major leaguers don't try and do that. I don't like, and they're talking about the rules of getting rid of the shift and all that stuff. And I'm kind of like, yeah, I kind of want them to, but then I'm also kind of like, why can't you guys just hit the ball the other way? You're major league. I can't do it, but I'm not a major league baseball player. They should be able to do it. Or like, I can't remember, it was a couple weeks ago or maybe a month ago, Tucker Barnhart laid a butt down right down third baseline. It was easy. The third baseman was all the way over shortstop. It's a hit. If they keep doing that, they're going to stop shifting on you. It just boggles my mind as to why they continue to try to hit into the shift or not to hit the other way. I don't get it. And I've never heard a good explanation for it other than they don't want to.
Well, I think that one, it's the pitching's a lot better than it used to be. I mean, the velocity is so much harder. Guys throw off these crazy breaking balls. And two, I mean, power pays. If you hit a bunch of homers, you're going to get paid. Arbitration in the offseason, free agency. I mean, people will pay for homers. So it's one of those. I think guys, you have to find your power swing. If you don't hit for power, you're not going to last very long in the major leagues. Unfortunately, there's just not guys that hit 350 anymore. So
right.
You have to show some power. And I think guys fell in love with that a little too much. I think it was taught that way. And so that's when you get into like heavy pull guys. But also, I mean, shifting's changed a lot in like the last 5 years. I mean, the guys in shallow right field, that didn't exist 5 years ago for 99% of left-handed hitters.
Yeah, Manny Machado plays middle right field half the time now.
And he almost got a ball in like the warning track in right field. I mean, for how many years would that have been an easy double?
Right.
And now you have to worry about him catching the ball out there.
Yeah, it's that dude's ridiculous. I mean, I Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis, their athletic ability is just, they're just freaks, to be honest. The stuff that they can do. So you tweeted this out to the starting rotation for the Sears versus the Boozers, which I always call them the Boozers. I got nicknames for everybody, but you got Tyler Mahle, Luis Castillo, and Sonny Gray. Now, are you kind of surprised that Wade Miley is not getting a start, that they're going with Tyler Mahle instead of Wade Miley at first? Because Tyler Mahle, last time he was out, he didn't pitch all that great. We all know this. His biggest problem is his pitch count. He can't get guys out without less than 27 pitches, it seems like. But is that kind of surprising that Wade Miley isn't in there and it's Tyler Mahle instead?
I guess a little slightly, but it's one of those two where you don't know where guys are at in the season. I mean, Sonny Gray had that ribcage strain which put him on the IL. He's not going to miss a start because of it, but was on the IL during the All-Star break and comes back Sunday. But, Wade Miley, I know there's a lot of injury concern over the past couple of years, and you don't want to overtax him. I know he's been pitching so well, but it's one of those, you still have 2 months left. You can't just focus on one series, as important as it is, facing the first-place team. You want to make sure he's okay. So if he needs an extra 4 days after the All-Star break, to me, it just makes a lot of sense if that's the case, to give him an extra few days. Yeah,
the thing we all have to consider, too, is I forget this, and you don't think this would affect major pitchers, but it does. They only pitched a 60-game season last year. So their arms aren't used. They got to get used to pitching, 100 innings. Well, I don't even think go 100 innings, but, what we talking about, 16, 17 starts? Compared to what, 10 last year, something like that. My math might be off on that, but it's a pretty big difference from 60 games to 162. So that's another reason they gotta kind of watch what's going on with the pitchers and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think you're seeing it with all the injuries. I mean, look at all the Reds injuries. Michael Lorenzen was hurt in spring training. Sonny Gray's been on the injury list a few times. Art Warren just went on. TJ Antone, Lucas Sims have all been hurt. I mean, that's across baseball too. I mean, a lot of guys. Pitchers have been dealing with injuries, so I think using more caution than is a smart thing to do, especially now. I mean, September, maybe you have to change your mindset a little bit, but as of now, I mean, if you can give a guy an extra day, I think now's the time to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Now, with the second half starting here, and I've kind of already said it here a couple of times for my own opinion, what I think is the key to the Reds having a successful second half. What is your key to the Reds? Is it a key player? Is it a key position? What has to go right for the Reds to win this division?
I think the bullpen has to shore up. I mean, if it keeps pitching the way it has, I think that's huge. Maybe that includes a trade in there. But like you said, like Amir Garrett has been pitching a lot better. If TJ Antone, Michael Lorenzen, Lucas Sims, all those guys join him and are pitching at their peaks, I mean, that looks like a really good bullpen. So it's one of those, if that gets shored up, you're in good shape. And also the starting rotation has to stay where it is. Luis Castillo struggled for 2 months of the season. I know he's been really good the last 2 months since the start of June, but he needs to keep it there. And also, Sonny Gray needs to stay healthy. And Tyler Mahle and Wade Miley, they can afford drop-offs from either. Vladimir Gutierrez has been fine and as the number 5 starter. So that's got to stay there, but they don't really have much starter depth behind those guys. So those guys need to stay healthy too. Yeah, exactly. I mean, how big has Vladimir Gutierrez been for the Reds this year? I mean, he's another guy that has come up and
he looks like he belongs here. The moment does not look too big for him. Now he's only a 5-inning pitcher. I don't know if he'll ever be able to stretch it out past that. I mean, I think maybe after a couple of years, maybe not this year, but I where would the Reds be without him again? I mean, and Tony Santillan, another one who's came up and gave the Reds a couple good starts. So those guys showing up and stepping up for us as rookies was huge. I mean, do you think Gutierrez is going to stay in the rotation? I think he is with Hoffman coming back, or do you think Hoffman's going to be in the bullpen, or how are they going to work that out, you think?
Yeah, I think it'll end up being Hoffman in the bullpen, Gutierrez in the rotation. I mean, it's one of those, I think if it was the other way around, if they were leaning Hoffman, I think it would already happened by now. He's made enough rehab starts where I feel like he's ready enough to jump in if that was the case. I think now it's just one of those, in case there's an injury to a starting pitcher, you want Hoffman still built up as a starter before you put him in the bullpen. Because once you go to the bullpen, it's pretty hard to build back up to a starter mid-season. So it's one of those, you don't want to lose him. So keep that depth while you can. But I think Gutierrez has done everything he could to keep that starting spot.
So you think they're going to keep Hoffman in the minors for a little while, or how do you think they're going to play that?
No, he's going to make a start in Dayton for the Dayton Dragons on Friday. One of those, they're at home and Louisville's on the road, so it makes more sense for him to pitch in Dayton, even though the competition level. But I think after that, he's got to go into the bullpen. Just his rehab assignments will be up. He's out of minor league options, so he can't be sent to the minor leagues without going on waivers.
Right.
So it's one of those, he has to be on the major league roster somewhere. So I think the bullpen's probably next week would be my guess.
Now, one thing that kind of surprised me, I was very happy that they brought Tony Santillan back up for the Boozer series, but I was kind of surprised that he never got in any of the games. Was that kind of shocking that Dave Bell kept going to the same guys, which I kind of understand, like, because he got the All-Star break and, they can rest then, but you brought this kid up there for a reason, and he has pitched good for you. Was that kind of surprising that Santillan didn't get in any of the games?
No, just because kind of the fact you mentioned, I mean, Bell has his guys he trusts. Don't trust Santillan as a reliever just yet. I mean, he's done it once in AAA, but otherwise he's been a starter his whole life. I mean, it's changing your whole routine. You can't warm up before games like you always used to. So I think there's a lot of things that change when you do get moved to the bullpen. I think he'll be fine in that role long term. It's just a matter of he's got to get comfortable there first. And if one of those games was a little bit more out of hand, the Reds had a 5-run lead, Brewers had a 5-run lead, you probably would have saw him. But every game was so close.
Yeah.
That was the hesitancy part.
Yeah, that was what was so fun about that series. Every single game was basically a one run game, and those are fun. I kept tweeting that out, like, I want the Reds to win, but damn, this is fun to watch this. And to me, that's baseball. And I have missed that with the Reds, for the last couple of years, because last year it was just so frustrating with this team last year because we had the pitching and we just could not hit. And this year we don't have as good a pitching, but our offense is unbelievable. Our offense this year, this is the way I thought our offense was supposed to be last year. But just watching the Reds be in the race at the All-Star break for the first time since 2013, something like that. I mean, this has been fun. This has been an absolute blast. And I'm hoping that Reds fans show up this weekend and sell this place out, because I keep trying to emphasize this. This doesn't happen very often. We don't get these seasons. I wish they'd happen more often. So when they do happen, I want people to savor them, and say, look, this is why we love baseball. Now, my question is, going into this offseason, with my favorite player, Nick Castellanos, having his option, can the Reds buy this option out, or how do they have to restructure the contract? What do the Reds do to have to keep Nick Castellanos, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, it's up to him. It's his opt-out clause in his contract. I mean, if I was him, and his agent Scott Boras, if I was Scott Boras, I would tell him to opt out. I mean, he's going to make more money as a free agent. There's nothing precluding the Reds from re-signing him to another contract. Nothing precluding them from trying to give him, adding on extra money to the deal and, working with the current terms. There's nothing saying that there's a reason he has to leave Cincinnati.
Right.
But I think he's outplayed his current contract. Making $60 million a year. I think he's been better than that. He's been one of the best players in the league. So if you can say the Reds need to pay $20 million, I think you could do that.
It's somebody at your door.
Sounds like it.
hey, I'm on a YouTube show. I can't come to the door right now. But yeah, that kind of brings me to last offseason, the Reds didn't want to spend any money. We have one of the best hitters in baseball. And to me, I'm looking at Nick Castellanos a lot the way Greg Vaughn meant to the Reds, that 99 Reds team. They took on his personality. And they're doing that with Nick Castellanos a lot this year too. I think if they lose Nick Castellanos, it's going to be really hard. It's not only his bat, but his presence and what he means for this team. So, and I know they want to try to save money and all that stuff. So do you think there's any chance to save money that they might be trying to dangle after or Suarez and Moose and go with Alejo Lopez at third and that Garcia Barto at shortstop next year just to save some money to maybe put toward the Castellanos, or where do you think they're going to be creative? Are they going to be creative enough to try to sign him?
No, I mean, I don't think they'll give him away for free. I don't think you trade from your current roster to make it worse. Don't worry about something next year. I mean, you're trying to win this year. I mean, that's the number one thing. But I think if you're looking at revenues, I mean, I think some things have changed. I mean, Great American Ballpark reached 100% capacity in June. I don't think before the season many people thought that would happen. I mean, I think I was looking at it as hoping, by September maybe they'd have full stands again. And I think everything kind of happened a lot faster than everyone thought it would. Vaccines rolled out a lot quicker than and were more accessible than people thought it would. So, that's more revenue. And if you have more revenue, you have a better chance of, and also, things will look different now. Think this last winter, you weren't sure, okay, maybe COVID's going to be around for another couple of years. And now the world kind of, at least in the United States, seems more back to normal. So you would think there's some more certainty there in terms of projecting money for how much you're going to make in the future too.
Exactly. And I just hope that Nick Castellanos likes winning so much that he wants to stay here. I'll just tell you right now, that's my biggest concern in this offseason is losing him. That would suck. But it's almost 6:30. You've given me almost an hour. I appreciate you, Bobby. Tell everybody where they can follow you, the articles you got going on, and just what's going on with you.
Yeah, check out Cincinnati.com. I mean, biggest series of the season coming up this weekend, Reds Brewers. So Charlie Goldsmith and I will have all the coverage right there on Cincinnati.com. There
you go. Yeah, Charlie Goldsmith. Another friend of the show. I think he's going to be on sometime next week. So make sure you tell him he has to come on Strawberry Show, okay? All right, Bobby, as always, I appreciate you, man, and thank you for your time. And this is going to be a lot of fun this weekend. I can't wait for it to start.
Yeah, just glad it's good baseball in July. That's what it's about.
Exactly, man. Appreciate you, buddy. Thank you.
Yep, thanks.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. I got Bobby Nightengale is a really good writer, very good on covering the Reds and that aspect. He's got a lot of good information, so check him out on Cincinnati.com, and you can always follow him on Twitter. So we'll let me get to the chat here. Yes, Crown, I saw that. And Crown, you were late to the show, man. Yes, I said that right at the beginning of the show. The Reds got a 7-footer from Hamilton. I saw that. So we'll see how that happens. And yes, you're right. Yankees and Red Sox are canceled tonight because of COVID. Jared, there you go. Jared, wait, where are you at? Right out there. Jared, we need bullpen help. I agree. And one thing I say, Jared, Lorenzen's coming back. Bobby Nightengale just said that Anton and Sims hopefully will be back within a month. We get those guys back. And right now, just look at it this way. If you got Michael Lorenzen, and if Garrett is the old Garrett, and you got those two coming out of the bullpen, that changes everything for your bullpen. I mean, those two are game changers. If Garrett is pitching like Garrett can pitch, and Lorenzen is pitching like he can pitch, they are game changers for that bullpen. So I'm hoping Michael Lorenzen is healthy. I'm hoping Garrett is back to his old self, and we can take off. Like, dude, I'm telling you, if we get a bullpen, a shutdown bullpen, we have the talent to win this thing. We do. I'm not saying we're going to, but we can be in this thing. But we got to get the bullpen. They all got to stay healthy. It's going to be a lot of fun. I cannot wait till tomorrow night to watch the Boozers. And if they sweep the Boozers, I will shotgun a beer, and I'm sure Arrow will do it. I know Rabbit said he might do it, so maybe if you guys are shotgunning beers, we'll do some videos, and I'll try to put them up on the show, and it'll be a lot of fun. Jared, what do you got here? Here's my thought process, though. I'm okay with trading prospects if we are in the win now mode. Me too, to a certain extent. I'm not willing to trade Hunter Green or Lodolo. Anybody else? Probably. But those guys, and that's going to be the first two guys that they're going to ask for, and the Reds are going to say no. There's no way that they're trading Lodolo or Hunter Green, because there's a very, very good chance that those guys could be in our rotation next year. If not, for sure, the year after that. But they are at least a year, half a year away from possibly being in the rotation. But I'm with you. When you have a chance to win, you go for it, because you never know when it's going to happen. And sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. And right now it's happening. So let me get to the Facebook groups that let me live stream. And I appreciate every single one of them. And I invite you guys to go there and check out these groups if you're not joined. You got Houday Nation, Bengals Nation, Bengals Houday Nation, Cincinnati Bengals the Jungle, Cincinnati Reds riding third, heading for home, Bearcat Country, which I don't know if I posted that in Bearcat Country yet about the 7-footer that they signed, because it happened right before my show started, but I will be posting that in there. It's on Sports Strawberry Ice out on Twitter and Facebook. You can check that out. Ohio State Bucknuts. You got the Ice Bar, which is a show page. It's just a virtual bar. We go there, we hang out, drink some beers, talk crap, have some fun. So make sure you check out the Ice Bar. And then you can follow me on all my social media platforms, all under Sports with Strawberry Ice. I'm on Facebook, Twitter. The Twitter handle is at Jeff A. Trennepohl. That's TRENNEPOHL. I'm on TikTok. I do silly TikToks. A lot of it's talking trash about the Boozers, about the Tweety Birds, about the Clowns, about the Rat Birds, about the Squealers. So if you want to see some uplifting, fun Cincinnati sports TikToks, follow me at Iceman90, Sports Strawberry Ice on TikTok. I'll be pulling off the sound later on tonight, putting it up on the podcast. So if you can't sit here and watch me for an hour, you can listen to me. And I would appreciate you guys downloading it, sharing it, listening to it. Give me a 5-star review. That is awesome. Please do that. I'm on BeanPod, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, pretty much wherever you get your podcast. YouTubers, my original people, I'm at 1,242 subscribers. That is awesome. Let's keep it rolling. I want to get to 10,000. I want to get to 100,000. Let's make Strawberry Ice run wide. I know, I'm silly. And as always, as my man, Jeremy D's Nuts, Dimebag Dean, who actually is the co-host, will be on the show sometime again, would say, ready, all together now, remember one thing, and one thing only, and that is, you don't live in Cleveland, you live in Cincinnati, so act like it. Houday, we're going to beat the Boozers. Let's sweep them. And that's just sports, baby. See ya!